Hello, Namaste. Welcome to the print. My name is Amana Begam. So last year in August, I was invited as a panelist on BBC's Newsnight show in London to discuss basically situation in Manipur. And despite being asked to remain in contact for potential future appearances, I noticed an immediate discontinuation of communication from the production team after my interview. While the bit from the other panelist interview were shared on their channels, social media platform, my contribution was completely absent. And the exclusion was basically evident that due to my refusal to confirm the mainstream media narrative, and I could also see that interestingly, the BBC headline regarding the violence in Manipur was labeled as a being on the brink of civil war, while this was just a conflict of ethnics. So it was ethnic violence. In contrast to the around the same time, there was a violence clash in Leicester, and it was labeled as a headline was the male law and order. So this um, twisted basically coverage made me ponder the exaggeration and the narrative, how they are very how the standards are very different when it comes to their own with this on their own country and when it comes to the Indian matter. So the languages and the narrative changes drastically. So was not only one experience. I was living in the UK and I was fortunate enough to participate in university campus and got an opportunity to talk to a lot of students around the world. And like um, like any other country, my country also used to become a topic of discussion. And I used to be prepared for some criticism, discussion around India's flaws, shortcoming, and even the fault lines, and also how democracy. I mean, I could understand that according to Western media that the uh, the tendency of the current government is more autocratic. Okay, fine enough. There are standard, and you have a certain standard to basically see through that how well a democracy is doing. So okay, fine, we can indulge in those conversation, but I sometimes used to find it very one-sided and exaggerated that it used to leave me wondering that how they were aware of issue that as an Indian Muslim I didn't even see or experience on the ground. And I was baffled by the fact that they could not mention or seem to be aware of any achievement of India and Indian people. So the positive aspect used to be like totally absent from this conversation. So it started becoming clear that they were just following their mainstream media narrative, lacking, they didn't have any other source of information. So um, so after both experience, I made my peace with the reality. However, recently I read an article by the Daily Express, whose journalists are basically covering ongoing Indian election for Lok Sabha, and it came to me as a pleasant surprise that article did not mention any doomsday scenario where basically Indian democracy is on the brink of dying or on the verge of dying, or there is a minority genocide is imminent in this country. So this report basically caught my attention, and I started wondering if we are going to see a shift in Western narrative when it's come to the India. And basically, I decided to reach out to Sam Stevenson, the assistant editor, the Daily Express, and we discussed a lot of um, a lot of issues from range of topics. Started from the unbearable heat in the North Indian and how he was keeping up with it. So gradually shifted towards more serious topic, and I was very curious to know that why he is basically covering the 2024 Lok Sabha election. His answer was very simple and to the point that he was basically fed up with negative coverage by Western media and wanted to highlight the positive aspect of India. And he basically aimed to highlight the ground reality as it is, without any angle, without bringing any narrative, to create awareness for their audience. So one thing I also want to mention, which was very interesting for me, that his cameraman Andy, while covering the Ayodhya election, found that um, noticed that the Indian Muslim women voter that time in burqa and hijab were so eager to get clicked and see their picture in the um, newspaper. According his experience around the world, because he covered the news, so he keep traveling everywhere. So around the world and in London was very different, where Muslim women in burqa have no say in any decision making. They would not come forward to talk to basically non-mahram, and approaching them for photograph is like out of the question. So he was very surprised. So I basically I UK the team was surprised that not only the ground reality of India is very different, what their mainstream media portray, but the reality of Indian Muslim as well. Like they do not understand the Indian Muslim. So I I added further that there is a huge gap in their understanding of India and Indian Muslim. And that is because Indian Muslims are much rooted in the country's culture and not a homogeneous bloc. So that give him better um, understanding and um, so to that, Stevenson responded something very I would say very wise, or something which actually summarize that why Western media is failed to capture nuances, because according to him, and I will quote him, that maybe Western media fails to capture nuances because of their tendency to simplify narrative. They also try to reach a common denominator taken out of the context. I would say this is basically far more to do with maybe Abrahamic understanding, because the we try, since I'm also Muslim, we try to see things black and white, and it's not that uh, we do not understand the nuances, because now since we are living in 21st century, and humankind basically has achieved a certain kind of wisdom, so we do understand the nuances, but still we have a certain kind of characteristic to us to try to simplify, to see black and white. So I also, I think that's what happens when Western world see towards the India. It's more to do with that lens. He also avoided commenting on whether Western media fails to capture reality due to laziness or preconceived bias, but he did mention and accepted that somehow they don't see how much India has progressed. There is no mention of technological advances like digital payment or any other achievement for the matter. So, according to him, maybe it's perception, that perception. However, he believes that Britain don't need to follow his other allies. The India and UK relationship is a unique opportunity for both countries to reach the full potential. So I can see that according to me, that a section of Western world, or at least in the UK, seems to be keeping a close eye in India's progress. So the shift in narrative is due to the potential profit, I would say, due to the not profit, due to the potential their own national interest. So we can be hopeful that maybe we will see more such changes when it comes to the Indian matter. But I mean, I would not say to hope to have a so big hope. However, it's a long road. Stevenson says that he's hopeful and committed to doing more from his side. But for me, I think it is still very long shot. Thank you.